More and more businesses have been wading into the referendum debate. Which companies think prices will rise if Scotland goes alone? And more importantly, why do they think they will? Poppy Trowbridge is here with me. Poppy, who have we heard from so far?
Well, the business voices have been growing louder. Of course, the closer we get to the big day next week, these are some of the consumer companies saying that their prices could rise if Scotland decides to go independent. Supermarkets, you'll see, they're very concerned about one thing, and that is, in particular, higher operating costs. It's essentially like running two homes. It costs more than running just one. And this one won't surprise you, of course, Sarah, tax. We yet don't know what the different tax regimes will be. Although on corporation tax, they're getting closer to the same figure in the UK and in Scotland. There are many other taxes that affect businesses, and that's something they are quite concerned about.
It's not just the supermarkets, is it?
Well, no. Today, Sky News has learned that a group of mobile phone operators have been in talks about issuing a statement along the same lines. They are concerned, of course, that they will have to hike prices for their customers because their costs themselves are going up. And they cite two further reasons. One of them is, of course, the customer base in Scotland would be much smaller than across the UK. 5 million people in that country, 53 million people in the UK. You miss out on economies of scale, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And what other reasons did they come up with?
Well, also, this one really affects all groups, whether we're talking about the banks or the consumer companies or the mobile regulators. They're very concerned about a new set of rules, a whole new regulatory regime. And in particular, the mobile phone companies and some of the consumer companies are very worried about having to pay for their industry regulator. That's always a big expense for business.
Is there any chance, though, that prices could actually go down?
Well, that is possible. I mean, for example, imagine you sourced all of your groceries locally and the supermarkets in Scotland decided to focus on locally sourced things. Your transport costs could come down.
So you could see cheaper products, but of course you wouldn't get as much choice.
You wouldn't have the variety, but it isn't inevitable that costs will go up. And in fact, today Sky News heard from another business leader who has been very vocal about the fact that his product, the price of a pint, could indeed be cheaper in Scotland. Chairman of Wetherspoons.
It'll entirely depend on the policies that the independent Scottish Government follows. If, for example, they make VAT in Scotland the same as it is for supermarkets, beer prices may go down. Excise duty, alcohol duty in other words, is much higher in Britain than the average for Europe. If Scotland decides to make it the average, prices might go down. So it will depend on the policies that the Scots decide to follow if they vote for independence.
Beer prices could go down, might be a popular one, Poppy, but there is still that unresolved and vexed question of the currency.
It's right here, and the answer to this question could be the first step. It has to be the first step in answering all of those other questions. When we know which currency Scotland will take, you can start to do the maths and get to the bottom of all those other issues.
OK, Poppy, thank you.